Have you ever thought about how you would react if you were chosen to lead a nation? Now, let's dive into the tale of Joshua, a man who found himself in exactly that predicament. Joshua, once a humble servant of Moses, was suddenly picked to guide the Israelites, a task that was as daunting as it was unexpected. Imagine the surprise, the trepidation, the rush of adrenaline. But amidst his fears, Joshua found reassurance in the most divine of places. God, in his infinite wisdom, promised Joshua his unwavering support. The path ahead may be fraught with challenges, but Joshua was not to walk it alone. This story isn't just about courage and faith, though. It's also a tale filled with chuckles and lighthearted moments, all brought to life through the vibrant and whimsical world of cartoons. And so, with God's promise echoing in his ears, Joshua steps into his new role, ready to face the challenges ahead. What would you do if you were told to conquer a city with just marches and trumpet blasts? Now there's a question to ponder. This was the unique challenge that faced Joshua, a man of unwavering faith and remarkable leadership. Our story finds Joshua and the Israelites on the doorstep of Jericho. Instead of swords and spears, they were armed with trumpets and a divine strategy. For 6 days they marched around the city. One might imagine the citizens of Jericho peering over their walls, eyebrows raised in confusion. What are they doing? They may have asked. Is this a parade or a siege? But then came the 7th day, a day that would forever mark the history of Jericho. The Israelites marched not once, but 7 times. With each lap, the tension grew, the anticipation built, the trumpets sounded, the people shouted, and then, imagine the astonishment, the sheer disbelief, as the formidable walls of Jericho began to tremble, to shake, and finally, to crumble. Brick by brick, the impenetrable city fell, not to the force of an army, but to the power of faith and obedience. It was an astounding display of divine power, a moment that cemented Joshua's place in history as a leader like no other. And just like that, with a mighty shout and the trumpet's blast, Jericho was conquered, not by swords, but by faith. How often do we overlook the lessons embedded in these ancient stories? Here we are at the heart of Joshua's tale, where the true essence of his story unfolds. What does it tell us, you ask? Well, it's more than just a saga of military conquests. It's a story of spiritual triumphs, brimming with lessons on obedience, courage, and faith in God. Let's start with obedience. Joshua was a model of unwavering compliance to God's command. When he was instructed to march around Jericho for 7 days, he did not question or hesitate. His obedience, even in the face of what may have seemed absurd, was absolute. This teaches us the value of following God's commands, even when they don't make sense to us. Next, we look at courage. Joshua faced formidable foes and insurmountable odds, yet he never faltered. His courage was not born out of arrogance or recklessness, but out of his trust in God. This shows us that true courage comes from faith, and not from our own abilities. And finally, faith. Joshua's unwavering belief in God's promise was his greatest weapon. Despite the odds, he held on to his faith, leading his people to victory against Jericho. His story underscores the power of faith and its ability to move mountains, or in this case, bring down walls. So the next time you're faced with a Jericho, remember Joshua. It's not about the size of the challenge, but the size of your faith.